Let's talk about one of the most frustrating realities in corporate strategy. Mergers and acquisitions look amazing on paper, and then the synergies don't show up the way everyone hoped they would. Study after study says a big chunk of deals fall short. And one recent McKinsey finding puts the average gap between anticipated and actual synergies at around 20%. That's not a rounding error. That's the difference between transformational and why did we do this?
And it's awkward because synergy is the headline number, right? The slide that makes the deal feel inevitable. It's the promise that two companies together will be worth more than they are apart. But then 12 months later, people are still debating whose process wins, the systems don't talk, sales teams are stepping on each other, and the savings are theoretical.
Exactly. So today we're digging into how to close that synergy gap, not with wishful thinking, but with a practical approach that starts before you even sign the deal and continues all the way through close and integration.
And we should say up front, this isn't just about integrate faster. Sometimes rushing is the problem. This is about getting the synergy math right, setting up leadership and governance so it actually happens, and managing the messy human and operational realities that get ignored during deal fever.
Let's start with the obvious question. Why are synergies so often overestimated? Because if we can name the failure modes, we can design around them.
First, failure mode. The synergy number is treated like a target you pick, not an outcome you earn. People back into it. They start with what the deal needs to work, and then reverse engineer a synergy estimate that makes the valuation feel comfortable.
Yes, the deal becomes a conclusion, and the diligence becomes a justification exercise. Second failure mode, poor granularity. A synergy estimate like $200 million run rate by year 3. Sound impressive, but if you can't explain where it comes from by function, by geography, by initiative, by owner, it's basically a motivational poster.
Third, timing. Synergies are usually presented as clean curves, but in real life, you get delays. Legal entity changes take time. Systems migrations take time. Customer contracts renew when they renew. And in the meantime, you often get integration costs and distraction that hit right away.
Fourth, culture and capability gaps. You can't assume the acquiring company's way of working will magically scale across a combined organization. And you can't assume the acquired company will keep performing at the same level while you change everything around them.
And fifth, synergy leakage. This one is sneaky. Even when savings exist, they don't always land on the P&L. You might reduce headcount in theory but keep contractors. Or you rationalize vendors but don't actually enforce compliance. Or sales cross-sell is available, but no one changes incentives, so nothing moves.
So if that's how the gap is created, how do you close it? I like to frame it around 3 phases: pre-deal transaction close and post-close integration. And in each phase, you need a different mindset and different tools.
Let's go phase 1, before the deal. This is where people feel like they have the least time. Because you're competing, the process is moving fast, but it's where you can prevent the biggest mistakes.
Pre-deal, the number one move is to shift from synergy estimation to synergy design. Meaning, don't just ask, how much can we save? Ask, what exactly needs to change in the operating model for this to be true?
So instead of saying, we'll get procurement savings, you say, we will move supplier spend onto a consolidated set of vendors, renegotiate contracts, enforce buying channels, and change approval rules. If you can't name the mechanism, you don't have a synergy.
And you pressure test it. Who owns it? Which leaders will lose power, budget, or headcount if it happens? What systems block it? What customer commitments could prevent it? Even basic questions like, will we actually be allowed to combine these teams due to regulation or labor rules? Can invalidate a synergy assumption.
Another pre-deal tool, build multiple synergy cases, not as a pessimistic exercise, but as realism. For example, a base case, an upside case, and a friction case where you explicitly include likely delays and integration complexity.
And be honest about one big thing. Synergy is not the only value lever. If your deal depends on aggressive cost synergies, that might be a warning sign. Sometimes the real value is strategic, market access, capability acquisition, product expansion, and then the integration formula changes. You might not want deep integration everywhere.
That's a huge point. Some deals fail because leadership tries to extract cost synergies while also expecting growth synergies, and they unintentionally crush the growth engine. Salespeople leave, customers feel neglected, product roadmaps get muddled.
So, pre-deal, one of the smartest things you can do is decide what kind of deal this is. Is it primarily scale and efficiency? Is it capability and growth? Is it market consolidation? Each one implies different integration priorities and different synergy profiles.
Okay, phase 2, between signing and close. This is the weird limbo where you're not one company yet, but you can't afford to wait until day one to start planning.
Right. This is where integration management either becomes a disciplined operating system or becomes a chaotic set of meetings. The fix is governance with teeth. Not just an integration steering committee that meets once a month, but a structure that can make decisions fast and resolve conflicts.
In practice, that means an integration leader with authority, clear work streams, and one consolidated synergy backlog, like a portfolio of initiatives, tracked with the same rigor as financial performance.
And let's say something unpopular. You need a single source of truth for synergy numbers, not one number for the board, another for finance, and a third floating around in integration spreadsheets. If the organization can't agree on what it's trying to achieve, it won't achieve it.
Also, align incentives early. If leaders are measured on their legacy P&L or local targets, they'll protect their turf. If you want synergy, you need shared goals and, ideally, shared scorecards.
And don't forget communication. Integration planning is not a secret project. People fill silence with rumors. The best teams explain what they know, what they don't know yet, and how decisions will be made. That reduces attrition and helps keep execution energy high.
All right, phase 3, post-close. This is where the numbers either materialize or the gap grows.
Here's the core idea. Synergy is execution, and execution depends on decisions, pace, and accountability. The biggest mistake post-close is treating synergy as a byproduct instead of a program.
Let's break it down into cost synergies and growth synergies, because they behave differently.
Cost synergies are often more controllable, but still easy to lose. The best practice is to translate each synergy initiative into specific actions that hit the financial statements. If you claim a saving, finance should be able to trace it to budget changes, headcount actions, contract updates, or spend controls.
So where do cost synergies typically leak? One place is shadow spend. You cut a vendor contract, but teams find a workaround. Or you freeze hiring, but increase overtime or consultants. Real synergy capture needs controls and policy changes, not just announcements.
And integration costs can be another trap. If integration expenses balloon or linger, your net synergy outcome deteriorates even if gross savings exist. So teams should treat integration costs like investments with ROI, planned, tracked, and phased.
Now growth synergies, cross-selling, bundling, entering new geographies, leveraging combined distribution. These are usually harder, slower, and more dependent on people.
And they can't be willed into existence with a kickoff meeting. You need enablement, product packaging, unified pricing logic, CRM integration strategy, lead routing, training, and, crucially, compensation design so sellers actually want to sell a combined offering.
Plus you need to decide, are we going to unify brands quickly, keep them separate, or do a hybrid? Brand strategy affects customer trust, sales execution, and even employee retention.
Let's get concrete. If you wanted to run a synergy program that actually closes a 20% gap, what are the operational habits that separate winners from the rest?
Habit 1. Make synergy initiatives initiative grade. Every synergy has an owner, a timeline, a set of dependencies, a risk rating, and a measurable KPI. If it doesn't have those, it's not an initiative, it's a hope.
Habit 2. Treat decisions as a deliverable. Integration stalls when teams keep analyzing instead of deciding. Successful integrations define decision rights. Who decides org structure? Who decides system selection? Who decides product rationalization? And by when?
Habit 3. Keep the business running while integrating. That sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest parts. If core performance drops, customer service, quality, sales execution, then whatever synergy you capture might be offset by revenue loss.
That's why many strong acquirers explicitly run a protect the base plan alongside the integration plan. They track customer retention, employee churn in critical roles, service levels, and pipeline health as first-class metrics.
Habit 4. Manage talent like it's a synergy lever, because it is. The people who know the systems, the customers, and the real operational constraints are often the ones who leave when uncertainty peaks. If you lose them, integration takes longer and costs more.
And habit 5. Audit synergy realization with finance discipline. Not just progress updates, but realization checks. Are the savings in the forecast? Are they in the actuals? If not, why not? And what corrective action is being taken this month, not this quarter?
Let's also acknowledge something. Not all synergies should be pursued. Some savings look attractive but create long-term damage, like consolidating customer support too aggressively and hurting customer experience, or cutting R&D and slowing innovation.
Yes, there's such a thing as value-destructive synergy. The right filter is strategic. Does this action improve the combined company's ability to compete, or does it just make next quarter look nicer?
So if a listener is sitting in a corporate development team, or they're a functional leader about to be pulled into an integration, what's the simplest takeaway?
I'd say this. The synergy gap closes when you stop treating synergy as a number and start treating it as a set of engineered outcomes. Design it early, govern it tightly, measure relentlessly, and protect the core business while you change it.
And remember that the work starts before the deal. The best integrations don't begin at close. They begin when someone first says, "What would need to be true for this deal to win?" and then refuses to accept vague answers.
If you do that, that 20% gap doesn't have to be inevitable. It becomes a management problem you can actually solve.
Next time, we can go deeper into specific playbooks, like how to build a synergy backlog, what a good integration dashboard looks like, and how to structure an integration management office so it drives outcomes instead of meetings.
For now, if you're heading into an M&A process, ask yourself one question today. Do we have real mechanisms behind our synergies or just slide headlines? Because that difference is where deals succeed or quietly underdeliver.